Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about performing the cash secured put strategy and covered calls as well, or the wheel strategy, against blue chip dividend stocks. And the reason I like to talk about this strategy as it relates to blue chip dividend stocks is that these stocks are going to be less volatile than your typical, let's say, Palantir or Nvidia, which can make the wheel strategy actually quite risky. And in some of my videos, I do individual analysis, let's say on a single stock, and I'm using a hypothetically large amount, let's say $250,000, to demonstrate how much money you could potentially make if you had a large sum of money to work with. But with that being said, you have to be careful because I never want anybody to, take my video and think I'm recommending that you take one single stock position as an entire concentration of your portfolio. You need to be well diversified. So you need to do this strategy. Let's say you have a $100,000 portfolio, research some companies, and let's say find like 5 or 10 good stocks that you want to invest in as part of this strategy. Companies that you would feel comfortable owning, regardless of what happens. And so in this example, we can look at Coca Cola. Now, Coca Cola historically has less of a volatile, it's less volatile than the market, to put it simply. And what that means is, if we look at the beta, which is basically relative to the S&P 500, if we look at this number down here, it's 0.59, which means this is a stock that's less volatile than the S&P 500. Now, Coca-Cola has earnings coming up, I believe it is April 21st. If we're checking here on our sheet, we have April 22nd. So we're actually going to sell this cash secured put on April 19th. And what that means is we're going to sell to open. I used, in this example, 10 contracts, but the expiration is April 19th. Today is March 25th, so a little bit less than a month. And what we're doing here is essentially being willing to buy Coca-Cola at a strike price of $60 per share up until this expiration day of April 19th. Now, as far as the premium that we will receive for this, if we take the midpoint, you can see that for this trade, we would immediately receive over $500 for being willing to buy Coca-Cola at the strike price. And this is before earnings. And so this means that we don't have to worry about all the volatility associated with earnings. But the good news is a stock like Coca-Cola is going to be less volatile than the market. So anything less than 1 in terms of your beta is going to be less volatile than the market. And if you have a beta of, let's say, 2, that would be twice as volatile as the market, as an example. So in this case, we are less volatile than the S&P 500, which is a good thing. So right there, with a $60,000 in capital amount, and the reason it's $60,000 is because you take 10 times 100 is 1,000 shares, and you're buying these 1,000 shares, or you're willing to buy these 1,000 shares at the strike price of $60 per share. So when you're doing this trade, you're making $500, and you need $60,000 in capital to complete this trade. We can take a look at one other, and let's say Procter Gamble. That's always a good one. Or let's say, actually, stock a little bit cheaper. Exxon, let's see here. We can take a look at, we'll do Procter Gamble. Why not? So you need $60,000 to perform this trade. But if we take a look at Procter Gamble, you're going to need a little bit more because the price is over $100 per share. So in this case, if you were going to do 10 contracts, 1,000 shares, you'd actually need $160,000. So for this, we're just going to assume 5 contracts. Let's cut that in half. $80,000. So if you have $60,000 in Coca-Cola and then $80,000 in Procter & Gamble, we'll say you have a $500,000 portfolio. It's a lot. You could technically divide this up into like 5 or 10 different blue chip stocks, but we're going to do the exact same thing. And we're going to take, earnings are on April 18th. We're going to go for the April 12th expiration to avoid that volatility. And we're going to go ahead and just say, let's buy the stock at 160 regardless of what happens. You'll see this bid right here of 134, and you can go ahead and let's choose the midpoint, see if we can get in around the midpoint. And you'll see here that you have $676. And so what this essentially means is between Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble, right here we have roughly $80,000 we're putting into Procter & Gamble, and then we can say another $60,000 for Coca-Cola. Right there, that's $140,000 in capital, but you're generating over $1,000 between the $500 from Coca-Cola and roughly $675 for Procter & Gamble. So just a simple example, I would highly recommend diversifying. If you have $100,000, for example, take 5 or 10 stocks, divide it up. But with that being said, guys, hope this makes sense, and thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.